In the midst of a ferocious blizzard tearing through a frozen wilderness, a forest ranger spotted a tiny foal, trembling and trailing her every move. Its eyes screamed desperation, hinting at a chilling truth she couldn't yet grasp. When she realized it wasn't just lost, but guiding her to a heart-wrenching secret, her tears broke free. Before continuing the story, tell me which city you're watching from. I want to know how far this video has come. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, so I can send you exciting stories like this every day. Thank you. In the heart of an icy wilderness, a forest ranger trudged through a fierce snowstorm when something odd caught her eye. A small Mustang foal, hardly steady on its feet, trailed behind her. At first, she assumed it had strayed, but then she met its gaze, urgent, frantic, filled with fear. And when the reason for its pursuit sank in, tears overwhelmed her. The foal wasn't merely wandering, it was guiding her toward a place etched in her memory forever. Snow compacted noisily beneath Ranger Emily Carter's boots as she tugged her scarf tighter against the biting chill. For over 15 years, she'd roamed this sprawling, rugged expanse. Winters here were merciless, yet she'd never encountered anything like this, a lone foal. Amid the blizzard, Emily paused, her pulse racing as the fragile Mustang battled the deep drifts, shadowing her every move. Its fur clung wetly to its frame, legs quaking with fatigue, breaths escaping in feeble wisps of vapor. Confusion struck her first. Where was its dam? Its band? Wild Mustangs didn't forsake their offspring unless disaster had struck. She pivoted gently, softening her tone to ease its nerves. "Hey, little one," she breathed. "Where'd you wander from?" The foal peered up with large, panicked eyes and let out a whinny. Not a casual noise, a wail, a call for aid. When it lurched a few shaky steps ahead and glanced back, Emily grasped the reality. It wasn't adrift. It was beckoning her onward. Something lay ahead, concealed in the storm, awaiting discovery. Her heart thumped as the foal took another faltering stride, then peered back at her. It stood expectant, imploring. The tempest roared louder, gusts shrieking through the lofty pines. If she hesitated, whatever it sought might not endure much longer. She inhaled sharply, shifting the rifle on her shoulder, and moved forward. "Okay, little one," she murmured. "Lead me to what I need to find." With a faint, gasping whinny, the foal pressed on. Emily stayed near, her boots sinking into the shin-high snow. The foal tripped repeatedly, its frail legs struggling to bear it onward. She ached to scoop it up, to whisk it to shelter and warmth, but it refused to halt. It had a purpose. Something, or someone, awaited them. Her thoughts spun with scenarios. Had its herd cast it aside? Uncommon yet not unheard of, the wild could be ruthless, discarding the frail. But why this frantic need for her to trail it? A queasy dread coiled in her gut. Something was wrong. The foal suddenly stopped near a cluster of trees, his small body trembling. His ears flicked forward, alert. They'd reached their destination. Emily peered through the swirling snowflakes. Then she spotted it. At first, it seemed like merely another snow heap. But as her vision sharpened, her breath hitched. A full-grown Mustang lay half-submerged in the drift, motionless. Its mother. Emily dashed forward, sinking to her knees. She swept the snow off the mare's frame, exposing a frost-coated hide, her muscles rigid from the chill. Her breaths were shallow, almost imperceptible. The foal emitted a gut-wrenching noise, a frantic, mournful cry. He rubbed his face against his mother's, his small form huddling close for heat. Emily rested a hand on the mare's flank. Her skin felt like ice, yet a pulse lingered. Weak, faltering, alive, but only just. Emily knew she had mere moments to intervene. The foal had guided her here, unwilling to abandon its mother, and now their fate rested in her hands. Her thoughts raced into high gear. What had gone wrong? The mare's leg was puffy, her breaths ragged. She'd likely stumbled, hurt herself, and become ensnared in the blizzard. In such frigid cold, her system was shutting down. No sustenance, no shelter, no hope of enduring, until her foal tracked down Emily. Her throat thickened. This little one wasn't after a meal. He'd sought a savior for his mother, and she wouldn't fail them. Emily clicked her radio, her tone resolute. HQ, Ranger Carter here. I need urgent extraction at my position. Wounded Mustang, critical hypothermia. Static buzzed before the reply came. Roger, Carter. ETA 20 minutes. Can you hold her steady? Emily glanced at the foal, his frail body quaking fiercely. His gaze met hers, brimming with a rare spark in wild creatures, faith. She faced the mare again, her resolve hardening. She'd give it her all. Emily sprang into action. Heat first. She tore off her heavy ranger jacket and laid it over the mare, pressing herself against her to lend warmth. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The foal, catching the urgency, nestled against his mother's neck, offering what little heat he had. Emily's chest constricted. He'd never strayed from her. He'd never surrendered, nor would she. She dug into her pack, retrieving a thermal emergency wrap. She spread it across the mare, trapping any lingering warmth, then pulled a flask of heated water from her gear, tipping it gently near the mare's mouth. Hang on, girl, she breathed. Stay with us. For an agonizing stretch, nothing stirred. Emily's pulse thundered in her ears. Too late? Had she arrived too late? Then, a twitch. The mare's nostrils widened. A breath. Emily gasped sharply. There you go, she murmured. There you go, girl. Keep going. The foal whined, prodding his mother's face. The mare uttered a feeble, weary whinny. Emily chuckled through welling tears. She's holding on, she reported into her radio. She's holding on. So was the foal. Now it was a race against time. Could the rescue crew get there before the cold claimed her entirely? Emily steeled herself and waited. Her hands stayed pressed firmly against the mare's frame, her own heat seeping through the rugged fabric of her coat. The foal hovered near, his slight body shuddering from fatigue and dread. His quiet cries pierced the frosty air, and every so often he bumped his mother's snout, urging her to stir. Emily gritted her teeth. Help was en route, but 20 minutes in this freeze felt endless. She had to keep the mare conscious. She fished another flask of warm water from her pack, trickling a few drops onto the mare's lips. Come on, girl, she murmured, her fingers gently rubbing the side of the horse's neck. Stay with me. The mare's breathing was slow, uneven, but then a sign. Her nostrils flared slightly, catching the faint warmth of the water. Emily's heart leaped. That's it, she whispered. Come on, just a little more. The foal nudged his mother again, his little body pressing against her side, sharing whatever warmth he could. Emily couldn't stop the lump forming in her throat. He refused to leave her. He had followed her for miles in the middle of a snowstorm, desperate to find someone, anyone, who could save her. And he had chosen her. Emily had roamed these woods as a ranger for years, yet nothing had ever struck her like this. The fierce devotion of a wild creature, the resolve of a tiny being who wouldn't forsake his mother, no matter the odds. She refused to let that dedication go unrewarded. Emily flicked her eyes to her radio. 15 minutes remained. She gulped, her hands swiftly repositioning the thermal wrap over the mare's frame. She unhooked a modest energy bar from her belt. Meager, but perhaps sufficient to fuel the mare's endurance. She snapped off a fragment and held it near her mouth. Nothing stirred at first, then a faint quiver. The mare's tongue grazed the morsel ever so slightly. Emily drew a quick, ragged breath. She's still in there, she murmured. The foal let out a shrill, pleading whinny, his exhales puffing into misty wisps in the frigid air. Emily caressed the mare's brow, her voice a gentle hum. Hear that? Your little one's counting on you. You've come this far. Don't quit now. The mare released a barely audible puff, her ears giving a subtle twitch. Emily chuckled faintly, eyes watering against the biting gusts. You're stronger than you seem, girl. She turned to the foal, now gazing at her, his deep eyes meeting hers with an unvoiced bond. Hope, faith, a quiet connection. Emily gave a firm nod. We're not losing her today. The distant roar of motors growled through the forest. Relief washed over her as the rescue crew neared, and for the first time since stumbling upon them, Emily felt certain they'd pull through. The low rumble of engines reverberated across the icy woods. Emily breathed out a shaky sigh as headlights pierced the dense snow curtain. Help had arrived. The foal perked up at the noise, ears flicking, his slight body still nestled against his mother. She shot to her feet, flagging them down with both arms. "This way!" she shouted, her words nearly lost to the wind. A snow-dusted truck screeched to a halt, trailed by another rig towing a compact livestock carrier. Two figures in heavy ranger coats leapt out, rushing over. Liam reached her first, his breath clouding in the frosty chill. "Good Lord, Emily," he muttered, his gaze snapping to the downed Mustang. "You weren't exaggerating." "She's freezing," Emily replied briskly, dropping back down to tweak the thermal wrap. "She's been out here for hours. I've done what I could to keep her steady, but we've got to act fast." Liam knelt beside her, assessing the mare's state. He saw the spark of life clinging on, though just by a thread. He glanced at the foal. "Her little one?" Emily dipped her head. "Tracked me for miles to get me here." Liam let out a soft whistle, shaking his head. "This kid's got some heart for his mom." The foal bumped his mother again, releasing a faint, urgent cry. Emily fought the knot rising in her throat. "Yeah," she breathed. "He sure does." Liam rose, barking to the team. "Let's hustle. She won't hold out much longer in this freeze." The crew sprang into action, unfurling a sturdy stretcher and sliding it next to the mare. Emily hovered near, running a soothing hand along the mare's brow as the rangers fastened straps around her. "Hang on, girl," she murmured. "We're going to get you somewhere warm." The foal let out a panicked sound when they started lifting her, his hooves kicking up snow as he tried to push forward. Emily quickly stepped in front of him, her hands gently pressing against his chest. "Shh," she whispered, her voice soothing. "It's okay. We're helping her." The foal's breath came out in short, nervous bursts, his tiny muscles tense like he wanted to fight, like he thought they were taking his mother away. Emily stayed completely still, and then, slowly, he stopped. He watched as his mother was carefully lifted onto the sled, his ears flicking back. Emily placed a gentle hand on his head. "She's safe now," she whispered. "She's going to be okay." Liam gestured toward the trailer. "We've got heat packs inside," he said. "Let's get her in before her temperature drops any lower." Emily nodded. She took one step toward the trailer, and the foal followed. Liam blinked in surprise. "Well, looks like you've got a shadow now." Emily let out a breathless laugh, her chest tightening. "He's not leaving her," she said softly. "Not now." Together, they carefully guided both mother and foal toward the warmth of the trailer. Emily watched as the foal pressed against his mother's side the moment they settled inside. His body finally relaxed for the first time that night, and for the first time, Emily truly believed they were going to make it. The foal had found her when all hope seemed lost, and now he had finally found safety. The warmth inside the trailer was immediate. Emily exhaled, rubbing her cold hands together as she watched the mother Mustang's chest rise and fall in shallow breaths. The foal refused to leave her side, his small body pressed against hers, his tiny frame trembling, not from the cold anymore, but from exhaustion and fear. Liam secured the trailer doors and climbed in beside Emily, kneeling to check on the mare. "She's got a long road ahead," he muttered, "but her breathing is steady. That's a good sign." Emily nodded, though her chest still felt tight. The mare had survived the storm, but hypothermia was unforgiving. If her body temperature didn't rise soon, she might not make it through the night. Emily reached into the supply kit and pulled out a thick emergency blanket. She draped it gently over the mare, tucking it around her legs, trying to trap as much heat as possible. The foal lifted his head slightly, watching her every move. His dark, glassy eyes were filled with something unspoken. Emily reached out, hesitating for just a moment, before gently brushing her fingers over his muzzle. He didn't flinch. Instead, he pressed his face into her palm. Emily swallowed hard, forcing back the sudden wave of emotion in her chest. "You did good, little guy," she whispered. "You got her here. You saved her." The foal let out a soft, almost relieved sigh. Liam watched the exchange, shaking his head. "Wild Mustangs don't act like that," he murmured. Emily kept her eyes on the foal. "I don't think he's just any wild Mustang." The mare stirred slightly under the blanket, her ears twitching for the first time since they found her. The foal's head snapped toward her. Emily held her breath. Slowly, the mare opened her eyes. Weak, groggy, but alive. The foal let out a desperate, high-pitched whinny, pressing his tiny nose against her cheek. The mare blinked slowly, and then she responded with the softest huff of air. Emily let out a shaky laugh. Liam grinned. "That's a damn good sign." The foal nudged his mother again, curling up beside her, his breathing finally slowing as he let himself rest for the first time in hours. Emily exhaled, leaning back against the wall of the trailer. She had spent years patrolling these woods. Years watching nature at its cruelest and at its most beautiful. But this was something else. She pulled the radio from her belt, pressing the button. "HQ, this is Carter. The Mustang is awake." There was a brief pause before the dispatcher's voice crackled through. "Copy that, Carter. Looks like you just saved 2 lives tonight." Emily looked at the foal, now curled up beside his recovering mother. She smiled softly. "No," she murmured. "He did." The drive back to the ranger station was slow, the snowstorm still lingering over the valley. Inside the trailer, the warmth from the heating packs and blankets was finally working. The mother Mustang's breathing was stronger now, no longer as fragile and shallow as before. Emily sat beside her, watching closely as she slowly lifted her head. The foal let out a soft, excited whinny and nudged against her cheek, as if encouraging her to keep going. The mare blinked, her body still weak, but for the first time since they found her, she looked aware. Emily felt her throat tighten. Hours ago, she had thought this horse had no chance of making it, but now hope was no longer just a possibility. It was real. Liam, who had been monitoring the mare's pulse, glanced up with a smirk. "She's one hell of a fighter." Emily let out a small, breathless laugh, brushing a hand over the foal's head. "She had the best reason to fight," she murmured. "She wasn't just fighting for herself." The foal curled up beside his mother again, his little body pressing into hers for warmth. He wasn't afraid anymore. For the first time since Emily had met him, his body was at peace. The exhaustion, the panic, the desperate search through the snow, it was all over. Liam tapped his radio. "ETA 15 minutes, he said. "Think she'll be able to stand when we get there?" Emily looked at the mare. Her eyes were clearer now. She was still weak, but there was a new energy in her breath. She had been on the edge of death, but now she was coming back. Emily nodded. "Yeah," she whispered. "She'll stand." And when she did, it would be the beginning of a whole new life. The truck rolled to a stop just outside the ranger station. The storm had begun to ease, the snowfall thinning, as the first hints of morning light stretched across the horizon. Emily opened the trailer doors, bracing herself against the cold wind. But inside, the atmosphere had completely changed. The foal was already on his feet, his little tail flicking as he watched over his mother and the mare. She was moving. Slowly, carefully, she shifted her legs beneath her, her muscles still stiff from the cold. She took a deep breath, her nostrils flaring, as if testing herself. Then with a determined grunt, she pushed up. Her legs wobbled. For a moment, Emily thought she might collapse. But then she stood. The foal let out a sharp, excited whinny, circling her in small, eager steps. Emily's chest tightened as she watched the moment unfold. Hours ago, this mare had been seconds away from death. Now she was standing, her ears flicking back as she took in her surroundings. She had survived. Liam, standing beside Emily, let out a low whistle. "I can't believe it," he murmured. "I really thought we were going to lose her." Emily exhaled, crossing her arms to hide the tremble in her hands. "Yeah," she said softly. "Me too." The foal pressed himself against his mother's side, nuzzling into her, as if making sure she was really there. The mare let out a soft huff, lowering her head to gently nose him in return. The entire team stood silent, watching them, a moment of pure, undeniable love. Emily felt something inside her shift. She had spent years as a ranger, witnessing nature at its harshest. She had seen life lost to storms, to hunger, to time itself. But tonight was different. Tonight, love had won, and it had come from the most unlikely hero, a tiny, fragile foal who refused to give up. Emily wiped her face with her sleeve, blinking hard. Liam smirked. "You crying, Carter?" Emily sniffed. "Shut up, Liam," he chuckled, giving her a playful nudge before stepping forward. "We'll keep them under observation for a while. Make sure they're stable. Then we can start thinking about the next step." Emily nodded, watching the foal prance in small, joyful circles around his mother. "What's the next step?" she asked, already knowing the answer. Liam grinned. "We let them go." Emily swallowed hard. The thought of releasing them back into the wild should have made her feel at peace. That was their home after all, but deep down she felt something else, a small ache in her chest. She had spent so many hours with the foal, felt his trust, his determination. She had saved him, and in a way he had saved her too. Would he remember her when he was back in the wild? Would he come looking for her again? She glanced at him now, his dark eyes locking onto hers. There was something unspoken between them. Emily reached out, gently brushing her fingers along his forehead. For the first time, he leaned into her touch. A quiet goodbye, a promise. She smiled. "Stay wild, little guy," she whispered. Then stepping back, she watched as the foal and his mother took their first steps into a new life. A life they had fought for, and won. Sometimes the strongest bonds are formed in the most unexpected ways. A tiny Mustang foal, lost and desperate, didn't give up. And because of his love, his mother survived. He braved the storm, found help, and led a stranger straight to the one who needed saving. And in the end, his determination changed everything. Wow, what an unforgettable journey we've just shared. This isn't just about a tiny foal and the ranger who saved its mom. It's a deeply moving testament to love, perseverance, and courage that knows no bounds. It makes me wonder, have you ever trusted someone or something as fiercely as that little Mustang did? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If this story stirred your heart with its power of love and hope, hit that subscribe button, like, and share to spread the magic. Thanks for being here with me. See you in the next video. And keep believing that the smallest souls can spark the greatest miracles.